Okay, let's get started. So today, we will be discussing about databases. Okay, um, especially the database offerings from Azure. That is what we are going to see. I mean, till last class, we have seen all the concepts on the load balancing side, load balancers. Okay, so we will start with database today. So anyone know like what all databases Azure is offering? Close to the chat. Azure SQL, Postgres,
Yeah,
Mongo.
SQL. Uh,
Yeah, you see here. No? Right. Yeah, SQL. Yeah, Azure SQL is the main. I mean, though they have others also, but this was their Azure Fast SQL. Okay, right. Okay. So before that, okay. Yes. So if you look at this window, right? So Azure SQL itself is a separate set of categories which they offer. We'll see each of them. And there are like other databases also which eventually got added later. So one is like Azure Cosmos DB, which is like for this is more of like a NoSQL database which Azure offers, where you can put your unstructured data and all. And they also have like I mean, this is like for NoSQL thing, and they have Postgres, and you have also have MySQL also, which is available. And there is something called Redis, which is like for in-memory things and all they use. I'll see if I can do a demo, but you can just see like this is for an in-memory data. Like you can think of like if you have an application which is going to store session related information, all those things, they'll go for Redis, like where the data will just be stored on in memory for faster processing. But what we are going to majorly see is this Azure SQL stack. Okay. This Azure SQL itself has like four different ways using which you can host. One is Azure SQL Database, then you have something called Azure SQL Database Hyperscale, then you have Azure SQL Managed Instance, they call it as an MI, or you also have something like SQL Server on Azure Virtual Machine. So SQL Server on Azure Virtual Machine is nothing but, okay, so in case if you don't know, SQL Server itself is a database offering from Microsoft, okay? So this is the latest version which is available. Again, this can be installed on Windows, Linux, on containers, like it can run on different uh, ways. And predominantly like initial stages, this was running on Windows only. I think from 2016 or 2017 they brought it on Linux, so that it can run on both Windows and Linux starting from that version. And there is also like Arc, and there are like multiple deployment options which are available, okay, for SQL Server in general. But whatever you see here, this SQL Server on VM is nothing but I think Zaim Khan mentioned it is IaaS, which is like infrastructure as a service, where within a virtual machine you install the software and you manage it. Okay, so there you have to manage everything. Okay, when you go with, probably if I take IaaS versus PaaS versus SaaS, let's see if we can pick any one image. Yeah, let's pick this, or let me see if I can zoom in a bit. So if you see here, this option, whatever you see here, right, SQL Server on Azure VM, this will fall under this infrastructure as a service stack, okay, where you will get networking, storage, servers, and all from cloud virtualization stack. All these things cloud is going to take care, in this case Azure. But what operating operating system, what is the runtime? Runtime is nothing but your software, where you're going to store your data, what all things you're going to install, those things you have to take care. And whatever we have seen so far, like till now, installing Nginx or anything, whatever I showed you during the installation in the virtual machine is all infrastructure as a service. The other offerings, whatever you see here, Azure SQL Database, Azure SQL Database, Hyperscale, managed instances kind of like also can be enterprise. So all these are like, you will just get the platform, but you will not get the complete hold of your other stuff. For example, if you take PaaS, right? Basically you get all the things. Like you'll just get the database. Okay. So if you just install SQL Server, you will get the SQL Server process which is running all those things, right? But if you just install, if you go with PaaS, you'll just get the database alone. Okay. Probably I'll show you quickly. Though I thought like I'll not go deeper on this part, but I'll just quickly show you. Okay. Probably what I will do is I'll launch a VM and we will quickly see how it looks like. Okay. So basically from the marketplace, you can select. Okay. What I will do is I'll just say VM1. I'll quickly show you where this is available. So this is the image section, right? So if I click on see all image, if I type SQL Server itself, you will see all the images which comes with already SQL Server installed on it. Okay. I'll go with this 2022 developer edition, which is running on 2022 server. So this is one way, okay, where the software is already installed, or I can also download the software and I can install. So that is also going to work. So I can go to downloads and I can say like it'll ask like where you want to, like SQL Server on Azure, SQL Server Express Edition, Developer Edition, on-prem. Again, they like there are different editions also which is available. You have like Enterprise Edition, Standard Edition, Developer Edition, and there are like Express and Web Edition also. Okay, which you can find here. SQL Server editions. Probably I'll leave if you're new to these things, right? I'll leave this for you to just read it out. Okay, it's like a self-learning you can do. But these are the different editions which you have. In this developer edition is going to be like again with 2025 there is something new. You have, so if I go from the top, right, enterprise is something which you get everything. Standard, there are like few limitations, few features might not be available, and you have restrictions on how many CPUs and memory and all you can allocate to standard edition. Web, again, like there are like even further restrictions on what CPU, what features are available. But the key thing is what I wanted to say is developer offers you full-fledged functionality of what you get in enterprise. But starting from 2025, Microsoft has introduced two different editions separately for developer, because before 2025 we used to have a developer edition which will mimic your enterprise edition features, but we were not having a developer edition which is going to give, or if you want to have a standard edition and equivalent developer edition, we were not having. Let's say if I'm using developer edition, for example, before 2025, so your developers could build something which is available only on enterprise edition, but let's say in your production you have standard edition that could break things, right? So Microsoft heard that feedback, and that's when they introduced like these new editions. If you wanted to use standard edition in your production, you have standard edition developer version, which is like again like completely free, but you should use it only for development purpose. Okay. Similarly, if you're running enterprise, you have enterprise developer edition. This change they brought it from 2025. Okay. Evaluation is nothing but you get all what your enterprise edition gives, but it comes with a trial period of 180 days. I don't think people are using it once they started introducing developer edition, which is completely free. And express edition is like very lightweight, where you can just, you'll get a minimal version of the product. Okay, so that's at high level. Okay, so you will have to check all these things if you have to deploy something on a VM. Okay, so what I will do, I'll quickly do this setup also. Probably will check this at the end because I'm not going to spend more time on this part. Um, but I'll just create a VM. I'll quickly show you. There are like few different options which you get when you do the deployment with this. Okay, probably which you will see here. I'm just changing the VNet which I already had. And what I wanted to show you is, since I have already chosen the image of SQL Server, I get a separate window where I can do some configuration for me SQL Server. Okay, so I can say how the SQL connectivity has to be. If I open it for public, I can connect from my laptop, but I'll just leave this default. And port is 1433, which is the default port. Again, you have different types of authentication method which is available for SQL Server. So I'll just say enable SQL Server and I'll leave it as it is. Once we connect to the server, I'll tell you like what this authentication methods are. Okay. And these are the other things like where you set what is going to be your data storage, how much is going to be your log file storage, temp db. Okay, for now I'm just going with default. Okay, and let's go and create. Again, I'm not going to show this right away like how it looks inside, but we'll talk about Azure SQL DB. Or that's fine. If this is getting created quickly, right? I will quickly show this as well before I proceed. But one quick thing. So, have you? I know like Zain Khan would have seen it. He's from the data background. But Sashi and Ranjit, like, what level of knowledge you have with SQL Server in specific? Like, do you guys know what it is, or you're completely new? You can just say it in chat if you want. I worked with SQL Server, okay. And Ranjit, how about you? At least you know what it is, or have you seen how the interface looks like? Okay, anyways, like once this is done, I will connect and show quickly so that you will know. I don't have it locally installed on this machine. Okay, I have Management Studio. But anyways, let's wait for this to connect. But mostly DML queries and data wrangling and cleaning. That's fine. Yeah. At least if you know how the interface looks, that's okay. Okay. Because I thought like if I show this, then you will get to know how it is different in PaaS. Okay. That's why I thought like I will first show this. I could have already like created this VM so that we could have saved some time, but that's fine. This won't take much time. Let this continue. Okay. But what we will do is I'll quickly show you. I'll just say SSMS. Let's see if we have any image which says, okay. So I have this image. Probably let's use this. Okay. So you will have something like this. Okay. I'll open a pane. Let's say this is your virtual machine, and if you have installed SQL Server, you will get a bunch of process. Okay, the core process is SQL Server, which they call it as MS SQL Server. I'm just giving you a quick thing so that it would be easy. And you have something called SQL Server agent. Okay, these are the two. I mean, though you get other process, but for now, just remember like these are the two process which you get. Now going back to the screenshot, right? A single installation of a software, you call it as an instance. Okay. And let's say you have, I'll just say MS SQL Server as the instance name. You have something called instance name here. So this MS SQL Server is something, a default instance name they call it, but you can also have a named instance. Okay. Whatever you see here, it is a named instance. So DB is the machine name and SQL 2025 is the instance name in this case. So this is a named instance. Within instance, you can have multiple databases. You can have a separate security. You have like other high availability features, and you have something called SQL Server agent where you can schedule tasks. Okay, this is at very high level overview, like what you get when you install SQL Server on a virtual machine. Okay, so here you get full functionality of SQL Server and you get access to your whole VM. Okay, just keep this in mind because when we go to pass, right, things will be different. That's why I just want to set the context here. Like if you install it on a VM, you get all these things. Once the VM is deployed, I will log in and show you. But this is the screenshot for your reference where you see database, security, server objects, replication, always on high availability, management, integration service catalog, agent, extended event profiler. Okay. Just with this in mind, let's see what you get with Azure SQL managed database. Okay, where Azure is going to take care of all the management of the underlying infrastructure. We will be managing only this part. You will just get access to the database. In this case, AdventureWorks, which you see here, right? You'll just get access to this database so that you don't have to worry about all other things, what is happening. Okay. Now, for us to create Azure SQL DB, okay, it's going to be something like this. Okay, if you guys remember when we discussed about storage account, I told you that is a public service, right? You will get an endpoint to which you interact. Similarly, okay, Azure also you Azure SQL database is also something like this. Okay, let's say you have an Azure account and a subscription. Okay, within that subscription, you have a resource group. Okay, I'll just say resource group, or let me type resource uh, resource group. Let me do this. Okay, within this resource group, you have to create something called SQL Server. Okay, this is for Azure SQL DB, I'm saying. So within this, once the SQL Server is created, within that SQL Server, you will be creating your databases. Something like this you will have. Okay, if I have to pull it, I'm very bad at this drawing, but just bear with me. When I show you, you will get a better understanding. Just think like this, okay? Directly, you will not create a database, but you will create something called server, okay? Which I'll show you. If you go here, you see SQL Logical Server, or if I type SQL Server, you will see SQL Server instance. I'll just say SQL DB, which will also go here, Azure SQL. And here also, you will see similar options, whatever we discussed. Okay, let's first create a logical server. Okay, as the name says, this is just a logical entity. You will not be storing anything just within the server, and creation of server is completely free. Okay, you will not be charged anything just for the server creation, because you're not allocating any resource like memory or CPU just to the server. Okay, which you will see here. I'll just say Azure Lab. Let's see if this works. Okay, and this name is something which has to be like unique, like how you gave for storage account. You'll get a standard naming format: database.windowserver.net. Okay, and I will choose Central India as my location. Authentication. Okay, I know I told I'll talk about this authentication once the other VM is getting deployed, but for now, just remember there are like two types of authentication by default which is available. So there are more which you will see, but for now, just remember there is a SQL and Windows authentication. I am going to enable SQL authentication. I'll show you like what it is once we connect to the server. I'm just defining the password because you should have a password using which you connect. You are not provisioning a physical server. This is a logical server which we are creating. Okay. I've chosen a server name, location, and the resource group. Okay. That is what I've given in the first section. Rest all, I will leave it to defaults for now. Let's go and create it. It won't take much time because like if you have seen, I told you this is a logical server. So that's why we haven't defined any other endpoint or nothing. Okay. It's just a dummy component so far. This should finish in few seconds. Okay. What was this deployment? Let's see. Oh, okay. It says there is a conflict. What is the conflict actually? Because it reached the terminal provisions have failed. Okay, let's redeploy this. We'll see. Because that got failed for some reason. I don't know. But let's see. I'll just validation is failing. Yes. Just push this. Okay. I think there is some more thing which I have to correct. SQL authentication password. So this deployment which got failed, right? This is for the SQL server running on VM. Okay, that is the one which got failed. System DB database. I'll just say true. Anything else? Nothing, I guess. Let's see. Okay, let that go. Now what we will do is let's go to Azure SQL Server and we have created a logical server which is available in central India. Okay. If I go to the diagram, this server, whatever I told you, the other outer thing we have created. Now, within this server, okay, you can host your databases. Okay. That is what we are going to see. Now, what I'll do, I'll go to Azure SQL database. Okay, let's go and say like create SQL database. Again, like if you see, there is a free offering from Microsoft also. But before talking about that free thing, let's talk about a normal SQL database so that then you will understand what you get free. Though you see it here, but I'll not go to that right now. Okay. Um, let's see what all details you have to fill for you to get a database. Okay, I'll just say db1. This database, it need not be unique because this is something you're going to create into that logical server whatever you have created. So you can just stick with this naming format whatever is mentioned here. Okay, and that should be fine. I think that is still failing. Let's not worry about that. I'll show you maybe in the next session also, but we will stick with this. Okay. Now, I have to, this is what I have told. Okay, logical server we have to create. In this case, we have already created a logical server. And let's not worry about this elastic pool for now. You have to define what type of workload you are going to run because accordingly, you will get access to, I mean, the resource. This is just for your tagging purpose. Okay. If I choose selection, right? by default, I mean, it gets a different set of storage. Okay, I told you this is a pass. Okay, while creating the database only, you will be selecting what kind of resource you are going to allocate. Okay, so I'll just choose production so that I'll be able to show you all the things. So this is the window where you choose what kind of configuration you're going to have. Okay. Um, Here, okay, you have like multiple deployments. Okay. If I have to say Azure SQL DB, this has different offerings or service tier which you can choose. Okay. At high level, you have DTU and vCore. Okay, if I have to put it here, let's type DTU and you have something called vCores. With DTU, you have this basic standard premium. Okay, if I just take this instead of we typing it, right, I'll just copy this because I wanted to show it here so that it will be easy for you to just see. What I will do is I will just remove this. Okay, with DTU, you have this three different models. Okay, and with vCore, you have this. So these are the different purchasing options you have, using which you can configure. Now let's see what is the difference. Okay, DTU is nothing but database transaction units. Okay, um, using this, basically Azure will provide you a bundle of, it's going to bundle the CPU, IO, and memory. Okay, this is what I told, database transaction unit. It's going to bundle your CPU, memory, and IO. Okay, combining that, they give you like 5 DTU. 5 DTU means I can get a database. This is for a single database. Okay, if I go to this diagram, this is going to be for a single database, which I'm showing you here. I am setting, it is going to be on a basic DTU, which means this database, whatever I'm creating, it can be of max 2 GB in size. Okay, this is for a basic DTU. Now, I cannot expand my DTU beyond this. Okay, this is the 5 and basic. Now, if you see, if I change it to standard, okay, now I get an option. If you see, for basic, we got a DTU of 5. Now, standard, it is starting with 10. And for 10 DTU, I will be getting a database of size 250. Okay. If I increase the DTU, let's say 3000 is the max which you get for standard. For that, I can get up to 1 TB of database which Azure is providing. And if you look at the cost, this is like 5,200 rupees USD per month. Okay. The very basic thing is basic. I mean, the least is basic. Okay. You get 5 DTU and 2 GB of data. Standard, if you go 3000 and max DB size, you can go up to 1 TB. And standard, it starts with minimum of 10 DTU. If you go with premium, if you see, it is starting with 125 only. Okay, DTUs. And your database size with 125 DTUs, you get up to 1 TB. Now, if I increase this up to 4000 DTU, you get up to 4 TB. Okay. So why this is important is, let's say if you are creating a database and if you know your data volume is going to be more than 4 TB, then you should not be going with any of these options. If it is less than 4 TB, still at least you can think about it, though there are other considerations with you which you have to keep. But if it is within 4 TB, right, you can just think of, okay, you can go with DTU and you can see what is the cost it takes for you to go with this setup. Okay, again, like 4 TB is max. If you are okay with 1 TB, and if you if it is just 1 TB, you can still go with this. You can adjust this and see what is the cost and all. But with this DTU, where you get CPU, IO, and memory bundled together, you get this unit. Okay, and that's why we are not specifying any like CPU or memory here. It is all DTUs. But the moment if I switch to vCore based, okay, let me just switch. You see, you will get a different set of options here. Okay, vCore is nothing but again vCore has different types for each tier. In this case, you will choose your compute tier is going to be provisioned or serverless. Provisioned is you are pre-allocating what is going to be your hardware. So in this case, like what kind of machines are available, you get to see here. You will be pre-allocating your uh, resources. Okay. If you go with serverless, here you get an option to choose what is going to be your max vCore and what is going to be your min vCore. Like if you remember the auto scaling thing, right, which we discussed, there also you set what is going to be your minimum number of instance what you get and what is going to be your maximum number of instance you get. Similarly, serverless, you are defining vCore alone here. Nowhere you are defining your memory, what you allocate for the server. Okay, so this auto scale is for the vCore, and you will get a fixed memory depending on what vCore you choose. If you see, if I increase to max 80 vCores, I get 240 as the memory, but this is not the size of your DB. Okay, just remember your this is the memory. Your database size is charged separately for the storage whatever you choose. And again, here also you have this 4 TB as the limit for 80 vCores. This is for general purpose serverless compute. This is what you get. Okay, now if I go with provisioned, okay, here you will not be able to choose your vCore because you are getting the provisioned vCore, and here your data size is what you choose, and memory comes with this. Okay, now if I switch to hyperscale, okay, this is a different tier where you get different things. Okay, here if you see, I don't get an option to choose what is going to be my size of the database, but I just get an option to choose how many vCores I need. Okay, and how many high availability secondary replica I need. Okay, you are going to choose how many replica you need, how many vCores, and your memory is something which is coupled with your vCores. But here with hyperscale, your compute and storage are decoupled, which means you don't directly pay for storage, but your storage can go up to 128 TB. Okay, if I go here, I have opened a documentation which I'll show you for hyperscale. I think new limit is 128 TB. Let me just go here. There is a table. Okay, you see here, right? This is for hyperscale. If you want to store, I mean, this much big of data, again, just because it says hyperscale, it's not like you should always store a bigger database. You can still store database of smaller thing. The thing is, you get more flexibility here with hyperscale. Again, here also you have serverless option. So the thing difference is with okay, one saying something. Sachi, you're saying something?
Yeah, Naveen, I was about to ask you, like, is that the same with the DTU as well? You said in vCore, we
No.
get to decouple between the storage as well as compute, correct?
Here you don't have an option to control all those things. I
Okay,
mean,
okay.
your compute, IO, memory is all with this DTU.
Together.
You will
Okay.
not, yeah, you'll not be able to choose those metrics separately. You will just get to decide how much is going to be your database size. So mostly
So
if
in
it
this
is,
case,
mhm,
when it comes to scalability, how does it work? Like if they
you
say, for
will just
example,
increase the DTU. If you, let's say
okay.
you have configured for 250 DTU and
Mm,
you have a fixed database size, if you want to
mm.
scale for higher DTU, you can do it.
Okay. It doesn't automatically scale it. We have to set that up,
No,
right?
you have to. Yes, right.
I see. Okay. And how about in vCore? Is that the same or it automatically scales it to an higher range if whenever necessary?
Okay. So when in vCore, again, if you go with provision, things are going to be standard. If it is serverless, based on your request, whatever you're sending, you will be able to utilize it. And here you will set what is going to be your min vCore and max vCore. Within this range, it's going to scale up and down depending on your usage. Here you will be billed based on how many requests you send or how much vCore is used per second. You see here, right?
Got it. Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Naveen.
Yeah. Okay, so here hyperscale is what we were discussing. Okay, this is on the hyperscale thing. So why I'm saying is like you have to consider various factors when you define things. Okay, and if you go with business critical, here you get, I mean, even more better throughput with lesser latency. Okay, here again the max size is 4 TB. So one thing which is very clear is if your use case is to handle more than 4 TB of database, hyperscale is the only option you have. Okay. Again, like IOPS and all, whatever I told, like you get everything here, which you can go through it. I just want to highlight the key things, which is the vCore, the DB size, and all. These are the crucial things which you have to look for. For now, for our demonstration purpose demo, I'll be going with basic DTU, which is more than enough. So let's go and create it. And since these are like managed database, right? You will not have access to directly take backup and all. So Azure is going to manage it. You are going to tell like how your backup redundancy is going to be, whether it's going to be local, zone redundant, all these things is something we have seen when we talked about storage account. Okay. So which is similar here as well. And rest all, I'll just go with defaults for now. I don't think I'll just change it. Only one thing which I'll change is I'll just say um, load this database with some sample data. Okay, whatever database we are creating, DB1, I'm just telling load it with some sample data. Okay, let's go and create it. And what I have done is, okay, since this is a managed database, you will just get an endpoint for us to connect and explore things. There is a tool called SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, this is just a tool which you can install it on your machine. And using this tool, you can interact with the database which we just provision. So let's see how we can do it. Okay, before that, I think I spoke a lot today, which usually don't happen. Any questions before while that is getting provision?
Nothing from me, but it is really interesting to know all these things from your side.
Okay, okay, that's great. And any other
Naveen,
questions?
before you create any DTU or something, right? We should know
Mhm.
what is IO and what is everything, right?
Okay, right. Okay, so you want me to explain on that IO part, is it?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay, I'll just put a very high level, right? Okay. Because if we discuss more on that, that itself will be a separate topic. So, but what I will do is, okay, I'll just try to keep it very simple, which will be applicable for most of the databases. Okay. Let's say this is your server. Okay. Let's take this as your server. Your server will have something called, you will have a CPU. Okay, and you will have memory. I'll just type memory, and you will have a storage, which is going to I'll just say disk. So your disk is where all your data gets stored. Okay, the moment you install a software, okay, this could be any database, it's not specific to SQL Server, you will get a process basically, okay, which is nothing. In this case, it's going to be SQL Server and SQL Server agent, I told. And there are like whole other things which gets installed. This process, to run this process, this will have a dependency on your CPU and memory. Again, like I'm not going to exactly tell how the translation happens and all. That will be more depth, like how your memory address is mapped to CPU process and all. I'll not go, but just remember, it's bounded with CPU and memory. Okay, at high level. Okay, your data is stored on your disk. Okay, and let's say I told you we have a tool called Management Studio. In short, it is SMS. Okay, and I told you we can query your data using this tool, and this will be displaying. The moment you query, okay, what this Management Studio tool is going to do is it will go and check. Okay, there is a separate SQL OS which will be running. Okay, in this case, SQL OS is something specific to SQL Server. This is going to handle the scheduling of these requests, whatever is going to be sent. It will first check in memory. Okay, let's say if I have typed a query, something like select star from some table name, it's going to check, do I have that data in my memory? Here, memory is nothing but your RAM. The memory which is allocated for SQL Server process, it will check if that data is not there in memory. It's going to go to your disk. It will fetch the data and it will put in memory. Once this is in memory, then this process will route and send this data back to the management studio and print the data. Here, the process of fetching the data from the physical disk, from your disk, is something we call it as a physical IO. Okay. And whatever is getting queried from memory is something you call it as a logical reads. In general, for any database product, your logical reads are much more faster compared to your physical reads, which has to be fetched from disk, because accessing data from memory is very easy compared to accessing data from a disk. Okay. Now, this process of fetching the data from the disk, you can think of this as a single IO. I mean, I'm just putting it at high level, because if I go more deep, like how much is the size of each page, how much is the size of each sector at storage level, that's going to complicate things. But whatever IO or whatever request which goes to your storage, that you can think of like each IO operation, which a process has to do for it to accomplish its task. Any questions on this? I just kept it very high level. I don't know if you got it, but yeah, any questions?
No, Naveen. Yeah.
You got it, right? This is what happens.
Yes.
This is like common for all the
Correct.
database if you are running it on a VM. Okay, fine. With that, let me go here. I think we created a database, which is this one. And I told you we have something called a server. Within your server only your database is sitting. Okay, let's go to the server. I told you this is like another public service which you get, like your storage endpoint and all. And this is how your management studio looks like. Okay, and I'll just go here just to show you again. This is the server name I copied, and I just have taken it here. And this is the place where I have given the server name. I told you there are like different types of authentication which is available. We are going to look at the SQL Server authentication. Again, I'm not going to go into other things for now, but SQL Server authentication is what I'm using. But to quickly tell you, Windows authentication is nothing but this would be used if I'm having a SQL installed locally on my machine, if you see, it is automatically picking up the username which is connected to my VM. Okay, I'm using a jump server. Okay, if you see here, this is the user using which I'm connected to this VM. I don't have any SQL Server installed on this VM, so that's why I'll not be able to use it. But there are like Entra ID and all which you can use. For now, I'm not going to show it, but maybe later we'll see. For now, I'm going to use it SQL authentication. SQL authentication is nothing but it's an account which is just associated with that instance alone. Okay, it has no dependency on the operating system level. It is for the SQL instance alone. Okay, I'll give the username whatever I have defined during the creation of the server, and I have given the password, and I'll hit on connect. Now, if you see, we are getting an error. It says deny public network access is set to yes. Okay, which means there is no public access which is enabled for this server. Okay, just remember I'm telling the word server. Okay, now if I go here, there is a networking section. Okay, here if you see, the public network access is disabled. Okay, if you remember, like we have seen a similar screen for a different service. Anyone wants to guess like which one it is? Similar, like this public access, private access, connectivity, something like this we have seen for a different service. That is also, like I told, that's a public service. Storage, yeah, right. Yes. So for storage account also we have had a similar options. So what I will do is I can say I don't want to enable public access. Okay, but I'll show you like if I go with this option, selected network, still you don't see a public option here, right? I can say I have two options here: virtual network. Okay, add a virtual network rule, or I can say allow certain public internet IP access to access the resource. So here, for our use case, if I want this VM to access, I can go and do it. Or if you see here, right, this portal is by default detecting my public IP, and it is showing, like if I click on this, it's going to add this rule. But okay, since I have SSMS installed in this laptop also, right? For now, I'll just click on save. It is automatically adding my public IP to this firewall rule. And let's go here and I'll say connect. And let me put the password. Now, if you see, it is working. Okay. I have allowed the connection only from my machine. Still, from the jump server, this is not going to work. But if you see, now it is giving me an option. Do you want to add this firewall rule to your SQL Server? If yes, you can just sign in and say click on OK so that I will add this rule. Okay, this is from the Management Studio. You are getting this prompt, which we don't want to do. Okay, what I will do is we will remove this public access basically. Okay, because I just want to show you like okay, one more thing before I remove, right? Let's go back to the screenshot. Okay, at least for the folks who are new to SQL completely, this is what I showed, right? This is what you get for a SQL Server which is installed on a VM, where you, in this case, you will get complete control. You see what all options you get: databases, security, server objects, all those things. Just compare it with what you get for this one, right? Azure managed database. I'll just take a screenshot. Just see, now you have only these three options. Okay, you have databases, security, this integration service. You don't have server objects, replication, always on high availability, management, nothing, because they Azure gives you only the platform to manage your database. That's all. Okay, you will be using this for the use cases where you don't have any dependency with your operating system or all the other features, whatever is mentioned here. And if you remember, I also selected load some sample data when you create this database. That's why you will see some tables already here loaded in this database. For some reason, it's taking longer time to load, but yeah, you see, right? We have some details which is already available. And if I just right click, I have an option to just select top 1000 rows. And this is how in the Management Studio, you can actually view the data. And yeah, that's how you can look at the data. Okay, again, like you see it in table format because SQL Server is a relational database system. So you will be seeing tables, though there are other ways to store JSON related files and all in the version, but high level, this is a relational database system. Okay, and this is how you can look at the data. Now, let's go here. I told like I don't want to enable this access. Okay, I'll delete it. Okay, in case if I want to open this access to the internet, okay, again, you should not do this, but I'm just telling you, if I have to manually define a rule, right, allow all, here I see an option, start IP, end IP. Okay, can you tell me, okay, if I want to allow this to whole world, what IP I should put here? Any
Star.
guess? Star. Okay. It says like the IP address must be a valid IPv4 address.
250.250.255. So
But do you think?
255.255.
Okay, you're telling something like this, right?
Yep.
Okay, but this is a one IP, right? If I want to tell for the whole world, okay, if I do like this, it's going to allow only for this IP.
Then
Can I
start
put
is
like this?
0.0 and then yeah, it will allow all the IPs.
Okay. But what I can do is I can do something like this also. Okay. Usually 0.0.0.0 is representing internet. Okay. That's why like in this case, if I put start and end as this, it's going to cover whole. Okay. Just to prove what we are doing, I'll go here. This is my jump server. I'll click on connect and now it works. And if I give you also this server details and password, you should also be able to connect. Okay, but this is not what we wanted to do, right? Let's see how we can make this even more secure. What I wanted to show is I'll do ns lookup, okay, and we'll hit this endpoint. If you see here, it is going via the public IP, okay. If you remember when we discussed about private endpoint, service endpoint and all, I showed you there is a bunch of resources which are public. They have a set of public IP addresses which is already reserved by Azure. Okay, this is one of the IP. In case if anyone hasn't seen that session, you can just go back and visit that content later. But this is a proof like it is going via internet and it is reaching this resource using this public IP. Okay, and if you see further, like it is, these are the things which we discussed, right? Traffic manager is something which we have seen. Now if you see, Azure is also internally using this traffic manager to route our traffic. Okay, now, okay, what we wanted to do is I will go back here, okay, to the networking part. And where is that? Wait, is this screen? Let me just refresh once. This is the SQL Server and wait, Azure SQL Logical Server. Let's go to the networking. Okay, I don't know, like I'll disable this. Okay, I don't know what happened to that role. I don't know if I deleted it or what, but let's see if this connection, this should not work. Let me just disconnect and connect. Okay, we are back to square one, what we already had. Now this connection is not working. Okay, public access is disabled, which we wanted to do. Again, this public access disabling is something which is for the inbound request to this one. Still, this is going, if I have to reach this service, it is going via internet. Okay, this is a public IP, which we want to avoid. Okay, for that, what I'm going to do is I am going to set up a private endpoint. Okay, let's go and create a private endpoint. And I'll go with the same resource group. I'll just say SQL Server private endpoint. This is going to create a network interface, which we know. I'll go with the Central India. And this is the resource. It's going to be SQL Server, which is okay. And we know it's going to dynamically allocate a public private IP for the endpoint. And I'll choose this same subnet in this case. And let's go to the DNS. Okay. This is something which we have seen for storage account as well when we discussed, okay, how to set up a private endpoint. It is the same concept. And let's go and create this endpoint. Okay, let's say we'll create it. Now we are creating a private link, okay, to access this service from this specific virtual network where my jump server is sitting. Okay. Once this is, what I will do is, let me go to this virtual machine. This is the jump server, and this is our network. Okay, if you go here, this is the subnet we have. So we are creating a private link to this subnet for our resource. Okay, so soon, once that is created, we'll look at the other entries. Okay, if you remember, like this is going to create a DNS entry, which we will see here shortly. If I go to this DNS zone, this will have an entry. Once this private endpoint is created, the way how we are accessing this VM, okay, I mean the way how this VM is reached from the backend, you will no longer see a public IP getting displayed here. This should not take more time. I mean, this should get completed in a minute. But maybe while that is getting deployed, any questions on what we have done so far? You're able to relate it. I think if you have attended storage session, it will be more similar things which we did. Let's see. Once this is done, I wanted to connect and show, but we'll just wait. Probably while that is going on, what I will show is, okay, let's go to the Azure SQL. Okay, this is done. Probably we'll finish this part. Let's go here. Now you see there is an entry. Okay, if I go to this entry, you should see a record for our SQL Server, which is Azure Lab, and this is the IP which is allocated. Now let's go to the logical server. Let's check the endpoint, which should be under networking. And this is the private endpoint which we have created. Okay. And if you see here, you'll get other details like whatever we have seen from the other side, right? You will see like this is for SQL Server, and this is the network interface card. If I go to this, Nick, you will see all other details. Okay. Now let's go here. We'll run the same thing. Okay. Now you see the difference, right? This is hitting the private IP. Okay. and it's not going via traffic manager also. Now there is no public IP involved. Initially we had 20.192.43.161, but now it is going via the private IP, which is even more secure. Let's try and see if we are able to connect to this instance. Okay, it says login failed. Let's do one thing. I think I gave a wrong password. Now you see, right? We are able to establish a secure connection to our SQL server using a private endpoint. Okay, no, we are no longer hitting the public endpoints with this, and this is a proof for that. Now, what I wanted to show you is this is one thing. Now, if you go to the SQL database, this is our database. Okay, if you see, this is the pricing tier. If you want to create a same database via T-SQL, I'll quickly show you the command also. I'm just opening a new query window and I'll just say create database DB2. If I just run this, it's going to take the default tier. Okay, I think it will take the provisioned one, which will be costly. But what I can do is I can just say addition is equal to basic. Okay, and I can create this database. This is same what I did in portal. We are doing it via T-SQL. Okay, once this is done, you should see that database again getting displayed here. If I go back to this diagram, now what we have done, we have created a SQL server and there is a DB1 and DB2 which we are creating. Okay, this is also done. Now what I wanted to do is, this is in basic tier. Okay, I think we had a question like if we can change the tier or how we can do scaling and all. For that, what I can do is I'll go to the database section, and here I can go to the settings or compute. I will be able to change this tier from here. Okay, this is where I can go and increase the DTU if I wanted to, and click on apply. That will make my changes effect. For now, if I have to say like 20 DTU and I'm increasing the DB size, I'll just click on save. This is going to apply those changes. Okay, this is where you come to the database and you do this change. Now, this with this architecture, right? Okay, before I proceed, right? Uh, can we extend for another like 10-15 minutes? You guys are okay, or you think we should stop here?
You can extend.
Extend, okay.
Yeah,
I see
Naveen,
majority. Yeah.
once you change the DTU, right? Does it require downtime or it is happen on the fly?
DTU needs it can be done in flight. Okay, let's see that. No, okay. What I will do is for which database I did the change, DB1, right? What I will do is I'll just say create table new, because instead of me telling, if I show it to you, you will get better confidence, right? What I will do, better begin tran. I'll say insert into new values. I'll just say one. So what we are doing, we are doing a explicit transaction here. It is not committed. Okay. Let's go here, which means we have an active transaction running. Okay, that is what I just did. Now, let's say I want to bring it back to the original size, and I'll also say I'm going to 1 GB. If we are able to commit the transaction after this scale up, scale down, then there is no downtime. That's what it should be. Okay, because you can, whatever I have shown you, this is just one part within DTU where you can switch things, but you can also I'll talk about elastic pools along shortly. Let's just wait for this to finish. Still our transaction is there. I can run one more insert also within this explicit transaction. So I have run 3 inserts. This is still in the changing phase. Okay, let's wait for a few more seconds and we should be able to see it. Okay, this is done, right? Let's go back and I'll say commit and execute. Okay, actually connection is down. If I do new, I have to reinitiate. Okay, DTU, yeah, it is actually breaking the connection, but for changing between the elastic pool, right? So you have something called elastic pools. Okay, you will be able to add database from elastic pool to this. This is something which will work. Okay, but wait, no, this also connection will get interrupted. Yeah, my bad. So in case of, I think, Cloud SQL, which is GCP offering, you can do this in flight. Okay, so maybe I got confused, but yeah, now we have seen it. This is going to interrupt your connection. Okay, but here things are different. Okay, in GCP offering. Now, so your question is answered, right, Srinivas? Like you, I think we have seen it. What happens?
Yes, Naveen. Yeah.
Right. Now, if we go back here, right? Here we allocated, for example, in this case, right? For DB1, for example, we allocated something like DTU of 5, and for DB2, we can allocate, let's say, I can have DTU of 50. Like each database have a separate specifications which you are allocating, right? In this case, your resource, let's say you have allocated, for example, I would say 500 DTU, and this is with 50. Okay, there can be case where you will not be utilizing all this 100 DTU every time, right? Think about a scenario where you want to make use of that excess DTU for the other database. Okay, for example, DB2. That is something you cannot do with the normal standalone database. Okay, and one more thing, though these two are in a same server, the logical server, if I go here, you cannot write a query to access data between DB1 and DB2. Means like you cannot write a query called cross database query. You cannot write. Let's say if I have to do something like what I can do is db1 dot dbo dot, let's pick some table. I don't know what table we had. Okay, we can use this one, right? New. If I say union all, let's have to say db1. That's a typo. And if I do something like this, this is not allowed. Okay, though I don't have the table in the other database, but we can quickly create. It will say you cannot do cross database query. Okay, if I do something like this, you see, right, reference to database, this is not supported. Okay, this is one thing. Though this is in the same server, these things will be treated as a separate database. Okay, you cannot write a query something like this where you are referencing this thing. There are like other ways to do it, like elastic queries and other things and all. You can do it, but you can also create external tables, polybase, like that. Multiple options are there, but directly you don't have an option to query. Okay, so why I'm telling this is because I told you like about this scenario, right? Where taking the resource from this database, whatever we have allocated, can we use it? So for that kind of workload where you cannot predict things, you can actually pool your database. Let's say you have a scenario, something like this. Okay, for example, what I will do is I'll just say, let's say this is a graph. Okay, and you have your CPU usage here. and let's say this is your timeline. Okay. For example, let's take this is for DB1. Let's say you have a load something like this. Early morning you have a usage, then this comes down and it's very idle after that. Okay. This, let's say I'll just say this is for probably DB1. And you have another database which is DB2. For that, your workload pattern is something like this. Okay. And if I have to say like this, DB2. Okay. In this case, okay, if I go with standalone databases, I would be wasting my resources. For example, if I pick DB1 for this period, it's not utilized. For this one, for this period, it is not utilized, right? For this kind of workload, if you have, or if your workload is unpredictable, okay, you can, I mean, not unpredictable, but for this kind of pattern, let's say you have, right? You can basically create a pool, okay? What I will do is I'll just say dev pool. You can group the database basically, okay? Here you have to select the storage, I mean, what kind of model this pool is going to support. Here you get eDTUs, elastic DTUs, okay? For now, let's say I just go with 100, okay? Anyways, we are not going to use it. Or better option, what I will do is I'll just change this to maybe hyperscale, okay? And not even hyperscale for this. I'll just go with general purpose, and we'll go with this basic vCore. Okay, I'll just click on apply, and I'll create this pool. Now, what we can do is we can basically transfer or convert our standalone database into a elastic pool database. So here, what will happen is you are allocating, okay, you have something like this. Okay, in this case, you have a pool which is defined with eDTU, and let's say that is 500. Okay, in this case, let's say you have two different databases here. Okay, your resource will be shared. Okay, whatever CPU and memory you have allocated, right? This will be shared between these two databases, or whatever, how many ever databases you have in this pool. This will share this DTU or CPU, whatever you are allocating. Okay. Now let's quickly see how you can add it. If I go to the configuration, you will be able to add the databases. Okay. I can just go here and add and click on save. This will bring our database to eDTU, and your resource managements and all will be taken care from the eDTU level. Okay, so you can, if you have this sort of workload, right, you can consider like consolidating your database into a single eDTU and do something like this. This again, for this you should know your workload better. Okay, if you're taking this sort of decision and all, you should understand. Okay, again, like we, if you remember, we have seen things in monitoring section and all, right? Similarly, for Azure SQL database also, you can monitor things basically. Okay, so with monitoring section, you have to go and assess what is your workload. For example, here if you go, you have metrics. You can see how is your CPU trend, okay, for your database, how frequently it is accessed. You can take the data for probably last 7 days or 30 days and understand the pattern. Okay, if you see there is a specific pattern where you can consolidate things, then definitely you can do this so that you can save some cost and reduce the billing. Okay, so that is how you can make use of this elastic pools to club the database. Okay, and if I don't want, let's say if I want this to be again back to the normal thing, right, I can just go here okay, before I remove it from here, right? If I go to the SQL database, okay, here only it will show, right? I'll go here and I'll go to the configuration, and if you want to change the pool settings, you can go here and change it. That is one way. And if you want to change the vCore and all, you can do it here. But if you want to remove as well, I can go here and I'll say, wait, remove from the pool and save. This will again remove the database from the pool and it will be back to this DTU thing. And this scaling up, scaling down and all, you can automate this process with something called automation account. Okay, I haven't talked about this much, but you can basically, you can schedule your scaling and all using this automation account. Let's say if you want to scale up during a specific period, scale down during a specific period of business hours, you can use this automation account and do it. Okay, I think we are already late. Probably tomorrow, what I am going to show you is there are like high availability options. I'll show you like how you can set up a HA for your Azure SQL database. We'll talk about geo replication, how to create a failover group, how to have a listener, and all those things we'll see tomorrow. And yeah, I think I will stop here and let me stop the recording.